Good morning, students. So today you're going to see about utility model. So far we have seen many online e-commerce business models, and this is the last one that we're going to learn, which is called as the utility model. So as the name indicates, we're going to have a utility. This model enables us to have a utility, and we pay for the utility only to that extent to which we have used the utility for. Say for example, this approach was used in electric meters and water meters, wherein you will be billed as per your usage. Okay, for how many units of electricity you have consumed, you pay only for that. For how many amount of water you have been metered, for that amount you pay. So metered services such as electricity and water meters plus international phone calls, telephone calls. These were the three areas which basically used this approach initially. And nowadays, we have many other businesses following the same strategy of having the consumers billed only upon their usage of the utility. So how much you use, for that amount only you need to pay. This is when compared with the subscriber services, that is subscriber model, wherein you subscribe for a utility for a certain period of time. Say for example, 6 months you subscribe, you take a subscription for 6 months, and maybe you will be using only the utility for the first 2 months, and the rest 4 months you haven't used, but still you have paid for the total 6 months. Wherein in the case of utility model, you pay only for the exact usage of the utility, only for what amount, what extent you use, only that much you're going to pay. So this model is using the approach pay as you go approach or on demand approach. Okay, based as you the amount you use, only that much you're going to pay. So internet service providers basically use this approach in many countries. So for how much bandwidth you're going to consume per month, the amount you're going to use, the amount of internet you're going to consume, to that particular amount you will be billed up. Okay, so this is basically used in many countries, but in US basically ISPs follow subscriber model. So utility model is a on demand or pay as you go model, in which you will be paying for the utility to the extent to which you have used. Now we're going to compare two main terms here. One is metered usage and second is metered subscriptions. Okay, so metered usage will be measuring your usage, and based on the usage you will be billed. Okay, so it measures and bills users based on the actual usage of the service. So that is metered usage, similar to your electricity. You have the electricity meter showing the number of units you have consumed, and based on that you're reading. The person who is will be coming to take the meter reading, he will be calculating the number of units you have consumed from the last meter reading to the current, and based on that you will be having the electric charge computed. So we have the metered subscription, which is the next concept, in which we allow subscribers to purchase access to contents in metered portions. Okay, this is like you have an ebook on the internet, but suppose the ebook is having 10 chapters and you require only 4 chapters of that. Okay, so you when you have the ebook, you can pay only for those 4 chapters that you have actually referenced in that book, and not for the entire book. Okay, so you can have the selected content, and only for the selected portion you can pay. So that is, you have the entire content getting divided into small units, and to the number of units you have consumed, you pay only for that. So for 4 chapters out of 10, you need to pay only for that 4, not for the entire 10. So that is metered subscription. So utility model is based on the concept of metered use, wherein you pay for the amount of usage, how much you have used, to that extent you are going to pay. So you pay for the services as they are used. For example, downloading documents or music. Then have taken the example of IEEE, that is Institution of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, wherein you have many journals coming in IEEE. So in those journals you'll be having many articles. So depending upon the number of articles you actually refer, based on that you need to pay. An entire journal will be having a number of articles. You are referring only to 1 or 2 articles. So based on that you will be charged. For 2 articles per article, this much. So likewise, so each article may cost $10 for its members and $29 for non-members. So IEEE members will be having the articles getting reference. They can refer at a subsidized rate, and non-members will be charged a little bit high for the reference. So for how many articles you refer out of a particular journal, you need to pay only for that. So say for example, another example they have taken is iTunes, in which you can either download an entire music album, or else you can download 2 or 3 tracks of your choice from the album. Instead of downloading the entire one, you can have 2 or 3 tracks from the album alone being downloaded, so that you need to pay only for those 3 tracks that you download. Okay, so this is also another example of utility model. So in short, utility model allows consumers to pay only to the amount of extent you're going to use that particular utility. So that is all regarding utility model, and we have come to the end of module 2. So in module 2, we have learned about e-commerce business models. We have discussed 4 models in a little bit more detail: B2B, B2C, C2B and C2C, I believe. Those 4, and then we learned about online e-commerce business model. So that covers module 2. Okay, now we're going to have module 3. We'll have an introduction onto module 3. So as I told, module 3 of e-commerce covers 2 topics basically. One is e-commerce infrastructure threats. That is, what are the different types of threats that can come into your way when you're going to have an e-commerce transaction being done. Okay, you do an e-commerce transaction, that too a financial transaction. Now what can be the different types of threats that can come into an e-commerce transaction that can actually alter, or they can alter the good effect of a transaction. Okay, they can cause the transaction to fail. Okay, so we're going to see those threats to the e-commerce security environment, and next we're going to see the different technological solutions to those security threats. How can we tackle those threats? Okay, technologically, what are the different solutions for tackling with those threats? Okay, so since most of the e-commerce transaction involve financial transaction, transfer of funds, we require to be at most secure. We need to have security properly implemented in all ways, so that our financial transactions may go in a very secure way. So we need to have awareness regarding what are the different types of threats that may happen in the e-commerce form of trading, in the e-commerce environment. What are the different types of threats that may come, and what are the solutions for? So these are the 2 topics that we're going to handle in module 3 of e-commerce, which is e-commerce security. So first, we're going to see what is meant by e-commerce security environment. Okay, so e-commerce security environment involves reducing risk in e-commerce. E-commerce, since it is commerce, wherever commerce is involved, wherever a business transaction is going to happen, you have funds getting involved. We have most of the transactions, majority of the transactions are involving the transfer of funds. So we need to have security in all aspects. Security has to be implemented. You require a secure environment to be set up prior to every e-commerce transaction happening. Okay, so these are the different elements of e-commerce security environment. We have technologies, we have organizational policies and procedures which need to be followed for every transaction to happen. Then laws and industry standards which our transactions should cater to. So these are the different elements of e-commerce security environment, which are the different technologies that will help you to have secure transactions happen. Then the different organizational policies and procedures that you should follow, and the laws and industry standards to which your transactions should comply with. Okay, so to achieve highest degree of security as possible, new technologies should be used. So we have different types of security mechanisms to be learned in this module, like cryptography and all those stuff, which are basically used to have your transactions go in a more secure way. Then organizational policies and procedures are required to ensure the technologies are not subverted. So in order to have the best possible technology used in an efficient way, you need to have certain policies and procedures to be followed for every transaction to happen. Then finally, we have industry standards and government laws which need to enforce payment mechanisms in commercial transactions. So whenever any financial transaction has to happen, we should comply to industry standards and governmental laws based on which you need to do your financial transactions. Now, in short, e-commerce security is a multi-layered and must take into account new technology, policies and procedures, laws and industry standards. So these are the three main elements of e-commerce security environment: the different technologies that help you to have your transactions more secure, the policies and procedures that you need to follow in order to have the technology to be properly implemented, and the laws and industry standards that you need to follow in order to proceed with the financial transactions in a most efficient way. Okay, so those are the different elements of e-commerce security environment. So this is the diagrammatic representation. So we have the data that we are going to have to secure, that which we want to secure and we need to transmit securely. Then we have technology solutions, organizational policies and procedures, and laws and industry standards. Okay, so these are the elements of e-commerce security environment. Now we're going to see the different dimensions of e-commerce security. Okay, so these dimensions we're going to discuss from the point of view of customer and from the merchant's point of view. So for every dimension, we're going to see what is the customer's perspective of that particular dimension and what is the merchant's perspective. So every dimension we are going to learn based on two angles, from the customer point of view and from the merchant point of view. So customer and merchant perspectives on different dimensions of e-commerce security. So the dimensions are integrity, non-repudiation, authenticity, confidentiality, privacy, and availability. Okay, so from customer's point of view, we'll see what is integrity. You would have learned these terms associated with DBMS, okay, database management system. You would have learned what is data integrity. Okay, so this term is very much connected with DBMS actually. Okay, so integrity is, see, you're going to transfer some data from one point to another. You need to ensure that the data is going to be received at the other end in the very same form in which it is sent. So the data that was sent from the source should not be altered in any way during transit. That is data integrity. Whatever data is going to be sent, it's going to be received in the same form without any alterations done to the data. So has the information from the customer point of view, has the information I transmitted been received without unaltered? Whether has the information I transmitted or received been altered? Okay, so whatever data that is being sent should be received at the other end in the very same form without any errors in between, without any alterations during transit. From merchant's point of view, has the data on the site been altered without authorization? Is the data received from the customers valid? So merchant has to focus two things. One is whether the data on the merchant's website has been modified by an unauthorized person. Second is whether the data that is being received from a consumer by the merchant is genuine. Whether the merchant has received personal information from a consumer and whether those information is valid, whether it is the correct information. So these are the two questions to be addressed from merchant's perspective, whether there is any unauthorized penetration to be made to the merchant's website and whether the contents are being altered by an unauthorized person. And second is whether the data that is being received from the consumer by the merchant is correct, whether it is genuine, whether it has been altered in transit. Then we have non-repudiation. From customer's point of view, It is like, can a party to an action with me later deny taking the action? Say, for example, if you have some data that is got from the merchant, and the merchant later at a point of time denies that he has not sent such an information. You receive a catalog, you have a set of products, and the rates of the product is very much subsidized, very lesser rates you have, and you plan to buy those. Okay, so later at a point of view, when you contact the merchant says that he has not sent such a catalog. Okay, he's not planning to sell such items at such subsidized cost. You have never sent such a catalog. So if you have received some information from a person, and the person who has sent the information to you later at a point of time denies that you have never sent such an information, then it is an act of non-repudiation. Okay, so that is from the customer's point of view. Now coming to merchant's point of view, can a customer deny ordering products? That is, a merchant is receiving an order from a consumer, and later the consumer says that he has not placed such an order. So that is an act of non-repudiation. That is, we are receiving something from somebody, some information from somebody, you know the source, and later the source says that the source is not transmitted such a information. Okay, so denial of any particular information being directed to a particular person, that can be called as non-repudiation. Now coming to authenticity. Authenticity is basically, we try to have both ends authenticated. That is, from the customer point of view, the customer can deal with this particular question: who am I dealing with? How can I be assured that the person or entity who they claim to be? That is, how the consumer can assure that the person to whom, the merchant to whom he is trading with, is a genuine person. Whether the merchant is genuine, whether all the details that has been posted on merchant's website is true, whether he is going to have a transaction with a merchant who is genuine. That is authenticity from the part of consumer. Now from the part of merchant, what is the real identity of the consumer? Whether the merchant is going to have a particular sale, the transaction with a consumer who is a valid person. Whether all the personal details that has been communicated by the consumer to the merchant is genuine. So, in order to have any transaction, e-commerce transaction to happen, we need to have authentication done on both sides. Merchant need to authenticate consumer need to have proper authentication of merchant done. So merchant has to confirm that he is going to have a trade with a genuine consumer, and consumer on the other hand has to assure that he is going to buy products from a merchant who is genuine. So that is authenticity. Now coming to confidentiality. As the name indicates, whatever details from the consumer point of view, whatever information that the consumer is going to provide to a merchant, whether that particular information is used for the purpose to which it was collected, it's not getting misused. Whether the data that is being communicated for the purpose of any particular sale, okay, so that personal information that consumer passes on to the merchant, whether it is used for the purpose for which it is collected and it is not used for any other purpose. So that is confidentiality from consumer's point of view. Now coming to confidentiality from the merchant's perspective, are messages or confidential data accessible to anyone other than those authorized to view them? So merchant has to confirm that whatever data that is made accessible to the consumer is basically ones which are not confidential. All this confidential data should always be provided only to authorized people. Unauthorized people should not be allowed to access confidential data. Okay, so that is from merchant's point of view. So whenever we have something to be kept confidential, those data should not go to unauthorized hands. That is basically confidentiality. Now privacy. Privacy is, how can I control the use of information about myself transmitted to an e-commerce merchant? Again, the very same, almost the same. That is whether my personal information is going to be misused. Okay, I am conveying certain information as requested by the merchant, and that should be kept confidential. That should be private, kept private with the merchant himself for the purpose of the sale alone. Okay, it should not be misused, not be communicated to any other person. So my private information should always remain confidential. Then we have, from merchant's point of view, what use, if any, can be made of personal data collected as a part of an e-commerce transaction? Is the customer's personal information being used in an unauthorized manner? So whatever data the consumer has communicated as a part of a sale to happen, that data should be used only for the purpose to which it is being collected for, and it should not be misused in any way. It should not reach a unauthorized hand. Okay, so these two always go together: confidentiality and privacy. Whatever data we are going to communicate, whether the merchant's data or whether the consumer's data that's getting communicated as a part of a sale, that should be kept confidential, that should be kept private, and should be protected from unauthorized access. Okay. Then the last one is availability. Availability in sense, from consumer's point of view, can I get access to the site 24/7? This is the main benefit of e-commerce trading. You can do it anytime. You can order products, not like a normal sale in which you walk into a particular shopping mall or a home appliances shop. They'll be having certain timings and you got to resort to that particular timings. When you're going to visit the shop and purchase products, you should go within that particular time before the shop get closed. Here we can have orders placed 24/7. So in order to have this availability dimension to be followed, consumer point of view, the consumer should be able to order products 24/7 at any point of time. Okay, and from merchant's point of view, the site also should not be hung at any point of time. It should be available 24/7. So in order for the consumers to make orders, the merchant's website should be on 24/7. Should be always available. Merchant's website should always be available, should be operational. So these are the 6 dimensions of e-commerce security, and we have discussed each of these dimensions from 2 angles: from the customer point of view and from the merchant's point of view. So these dimensions are integrity, wherein data should be preserved from alteration during transmission; non-repudiation, in which we should always be sure about the person to which we are actually getting data from, so that at a later point he may not deny the transmission of such a data; authenticity, in which we need to authenticate both the ends who are engaged in a particular transaction; confidentiality and privacy mainly deals with keeping the data confidential and private and preventing it from unauthorized access; and availability in sense 24/7 shopping and 24/7 operation of the site, e-commerce site being operational 24/7. Okay, so this is all regarding the dimensions of e-commerce security. So this is just an introduction onto the 3rd module of e-commerce. Okay, and thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.